I thank you very much for tuning into That Will Never Work podcast. The biggest deal you'll ever close isn't with a client, but it's with yourself. Today's guest, Christopher Filipiak, helps CEOs and entrepreneurs unlock confidence, clarity, and consistency so they can lead boldly, so effectively, and build businesses that don't just grow, but they thrive. We'll talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in. So our guest today, he is a CEO coach, revenue strategist, and trusted advisor helping founders and executives step fully into their leadership potential. Now, Christopher, every leader wants confidence and clarity, but few know how to find it when things get a little messy. What was a defining moment in your own journey when you realized that leadership isn't about control, but alignment?
That's a good question, Maurice, and I'm happy to explore it with you here and to be on the show.
Thank you.
Today. So when I was starting my business, which was sometime back, around 2017, 2018, I knew a lot less than I know now.
Right.
Right? Which I know is like obvious, but I thought I knew a lot more than I did when I started, right? So it's kind of like looking backwards, I understand how out of alignment I was, right? And I think that at some point during that journey, I really understood that creating clarity on what it is I really want and creating alignment within myself so that I wasn't coming from the program things that I learned growing up and as a child, but I was coming from my own truth and from my own authority. I think was and continues to be a big shift in my leadership and how I grow and what I work with a lot of the CEOs and a lot of the humans that I get the opportunity to coach, because we give our authority away to a lot of other people, right? And reclaiming our authority and remembering who we actually are and aligning to what's true for us and our desires and learning to be authentic is a journey you can either go on or not go on, right? But that's how alignment, and I think of alignment as, again, being clear on what it is you want. I think that's where it really starts.
You said something very interesting because you said for us to kind of take it back, right, a little bit. And I'm thinking of that because when individuals who work a 9-to-5, or like you said, the parents, grandparents, whether you're in church or whatever it might be, whatever your situations might be. Unfortunately, especially as you're growing up, you don't know that you always have that control. You don't know that you have a mind of yourself, for yourself. And a lot of times, especially when we go into a 9-to-5, the idea is that we have to be duplicatable, right? We have to be able to mimic someone else, be someone else in order for us to get ahead. So at what point in time made you consider, you know what, because like I said, I did my homework. So you worked at a Ford company, right? And so in that big conglomerate, they have to have everyone kind of like moving in a certain way, a certain pace, a certain idea. And so they are used to that type of control, quote unquote, right? So how were you able to reclaim your own, especially coming from that type of organization? And it also feels like, hey, you know what? Those go to handcuffs as well. So how would you suggest to someone to regain their control?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, because we're taught, especially in the generation like that we grew up, that
Hmm.
job equals safety,
Right.
right? And like that is like a path to like a successful life. And I did all the right things,
Hmm.
right? Like, engineering degree from a top university,
Hmm.
MBA from the top of one of the best MBA programs, graduated at the top of my class,
Hmm.
and, had worked at Ford, had worked in consulting, and I wasn't making the progress that I wanted to be
Mm.
making, right? And that kind of woke me up, right? In that moment. And I realized that, and I think I had always, from a very young age, I had always wanted to take back my own authority, but I didn't
Hmm.
even know what that meant. Meaning, like, I
Right.
always wanted to see like if I could make it on my own, and that
Right.
was always very important to me. So I had this entrepreneurial
Mm.
drive to make it on my own, but also to like learn how to build businesses, right? And learn about money and sales and growth and entrepreneurship. So, I think that was the moment that I started to go, hey, something's not quite right here. And I don't want to spend all of my life, giving away my authority to
Hmm.
other people,
Hmm.
right? I want to take it back.
Hmm.
And there was also and I think that just comes from, I think we all have some of that inside of us,
Right.
Maurice,
Right.
right? Like that desire and who we really are, that truth is wanting to come out and express. And like that's a divine quality within all of us. But we don't teach our children how to do that. Like we teach
Right.
them to conform because we need people that take jobs and do work for other people,
Right.
right? And
Right.
that's how our society, at least in the US, is set up.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Right.
and I don't think
Mhm.
there's any safety in the way that we think there is. That's what really woke me up, is I recognized that there wasn't any safety.
Right.
There's no safety. There's
Hmm.
just no safety on planet Earth,
Right.
right? And so it's like, okay, if there's no safety, what is the skill that I need to develop to
Hmm.
navigate through all the uncertainty and all that change that's going to happen during my lifetime? And I was like, oh shit, it's like being resourceful
Hmm.
and being my own authority and making my own decisions and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes
Right.
and continuing to show up. And that's how you do it, or at least that's how I do it.
And so when you say that, all I could see, um, those cartoons that we might have grown up on, where you have one angel on this side, one angel on this side, right? You hear those
Yeah.
voices kind of battling back and forth, right? And so, because you stated about safety, we'll hear that a lot. We get that a lot. You get that while you're going through school, all those type of things. Hey, you're being prepared to be in this place, this 9 to 5, if you will. And then when you go to the 9 to 5, and now you're being trained in their products, in their services, and how they do their corporate stuff, and you don't always feel like that is transferable in another place, because sometimes that's the way it's so. It only works here, but the core value of that training or whatever it is transferable in a lot of cases, right? So how do you encourage someone, or especially an entrepreneur, that they're saying, hey, you know what? Yes, I did this over here, but that leadership skills, that time management, or whatever it is, can be transferable once I go out on my own, because we're scared of losing that security.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the skill sets I think the skills you learn from having a job, and like I came out of a corporate background. I mean, I
Right.
worked for Ford Motor Company and worked in big consulting, and I think those skills are transferable to like another job.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that some of those skills just don't translate over to being an entrepreneur. And
Mm-hmm.
that transition can be really like it can be really challenging,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, I mean, it depends on your role, but I
Right.
think about like in college, right? Like, when I was in my MBA program, like they didn't teach me about money. I mean,
Right.
I learned
They
about
do.
finance,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't learn about like money and sales, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really learn about like what actually moves
Mm-hmm.
money between businesses. And certainly like as an MBA, like, you learned marketing and operations and
Mm-hmm.
finance, but you didn't really learn about change and growth. You didn't really
Mm-hmm.
learn about sales. You didn't really learn about mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't really learn about how to like operate your body so you can get it to like change and grow. You didn't really learn
Right.
that there wasn't any safety
Mm-hmm.
in the way that
Mm-hmm.
we want it to be. So um, that's some of what is talked about when you have a job. But I think an entrepreneurial mindset is about, like I said, learning to be resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
learning to be being able to respond to your environment, learning to like be creative,
Right.
right? Like such a big part of entrepreneurship and sales and just being a human is being a creator,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would try to like delineate the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that I know for myself, I do rely on some of the things that were taught to me in my corporate space
Mm-hmm.
because of time management. You know what? If I know that between 9 to 5 and time allotment as well, because if
Mm-hmm.
I know if I'm doing this 9 to 5, then as an entrepreneur, I need to make sure because it'll be too easy if you're home, right? Maybe I'm not getting up as early. Maybe I'm eating lunch at a certain time. It's very easy for you to get off track. So I think there are some skills. That's what I mean by some skills or some ideas are transferable.
Yeah.
From a leadership perspective, you got to lead yourself, right?
Sure. Yeah, of
and,
course.
and,
Yeah.
and then, as you're stating as well, you have to start to think outside the box because now this is where, in some organizations, they want you to think a little bit ahead, just so they can move ahead, right? And they can build or whatever it is. Now you got to take that
Yeah.
idea, to now move into your own because now you have to. I know what has helped myself out has been to now, as I take a step back, I look at this organization, I'm like, all right, and this is the other part that you talk about and you teach, which is talking about how if I see how these pieces work within this organizations, these systems that they have created, like you said, these resources or whatever it is, now how do I um, create a version of that that will work for me?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding, hey, I learned how to use Excel in this place. For me, it was Access. I learned how to use Access.
Advance.
Right.
You elevated. You're elevated, Maurice. You're elevated.
So that they don't even use anymore. But
Yeah.
but so how does that something like that where we're like, hey, we're looking at systems and understanding like, hey, it's because I am maybe a solopreneur, I'm starting off by myself. Utilizing these systems can now automate because the way AI is right now is a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
level, right? And
Sure.
so how do I utilize these services, these resources, or whatever it is that I started to get an idea when I was in my 9 to 5 to really now propel me to another level and these things that could make me a little more comfortable as I move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Even something as simple as like your calendar, right? And I talk about this with my clients,
Mm-hmm.
and very rarely see someone who has like mastered their calendar and how to use it. Sure, like time management. Time management is like, you know, from a corporate perspective,
Mm-hmm.
is like someone telling you what you need to get done,
Mm-hmm.
and then you trying to figure out and how to manage your time to get that thing done,
Mm-hmm.
instead of like when you're an entrepreneur, it's like you're coming from your desire,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, okay, how can I create that in the most efficient way? And you start
Right.
to think more about space, like what you're filling your space with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of your time. And then how can you translate those goals
Mm-hmm.
onto your calendar? So like when I think of time management, I
Mm-hmm.
think of it as time that I'm creating a result, not that I'm doing a task, right? So I'm very like outcome driven,
Right.
right? Instead of going like, hey, I have to like finish this report by X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, what am I trying to create with this report? And how can I do that? And, if I have to do a report or something, sure, yeah, I schedule that. But it's like getting everything on my my calendar. And that's how, from a place of desire and from a place of goals or outcomes that I want to create. Yeah, I do. I agree with you. There's probably some technical skills and some teamwork skills and some leadership skills that you learn in corporate that you can bring into your entrepreneurship. But I'll tell you, Maurice, the things that I've needed to be successful as an entrepreneur, I didn't learn in corporate, right? Yeah, so I didn't learn anything about mindset or operating my body or coming into alignment or making sales or money or how to change and grow,
Right.
how to like increase my own consciousness and my awareness. Yeah.
So there's one thing that you stated when you talked about just a few moments ago about
Yeah.
managing the calendar.
Yeah.
And I like the way you phrased it, and the mindset behind it, because when you're in corporate, like you said, you're almost robotic, you're moving, and you don't always understand what the real outcome is or the desire. And when you're talking about, when you said desire, there's one part I would like for you to help us out with, maybe how to not deal with burnout, not get burned out, because that happens. But also in that, when we look at the outcome, sometimes we're so concentrated on, hey, we want to make $1 million, but not understanding how we really want to change the next person's life, or how we want to solve a problem that these people are dealing with. And I think that's a very great point that people are kind of will miss or can miss. I just want to elaborate a little bit, on that, if you will. Concentrate on your desired outcome, and what has that meant for you as well?
Yeah, it's really kind of an awareness piece, like that it's really, again, it goes back to that clarity on like what you actually do desire. Like, what do you want your life to be about? What do you want to create? What do you want to create? And then how can you help someone else do that as well as like a business owner? Like as like a business owner or an entrepreneur, even if you have a job, even though it gets like blurry when you have a job, because like you said, you're not as connected to like the outcomes that you're creating for your clients all the time. When you are thinking about that outcome, that's what taps you into your desire, and that's where you can shift your thinking to be like, this is what I want to create, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think once we get in our own place or space, that place of creativity, I know for myself, what helps to inspire me in creativity, I collect Transformers, right? That's the era I grew up on, and so especially G1. And so that keeps me in a creative space. And I understand out of those type of, even though someone might say, Maurice, that's so kiddish, that's so childish. But we have to understand that we learn these types of leadership skills, organizational skills. Like you said, we might not have learned it always in school, but there might have been another way that we might have seen it or learned it in that way. So was there a way or that you might have learned those other skills, like you said, outside of what might be the norm, like as you stated, as far as school or a corporate place? Was there anything that really said, hey, you know what, Christopher, you need to catch this, type thing, so anything for you that might have been outside the box?
I mean, things like sports and scouting, certainly like were things. I think one of the things that I'm learning now is, I'm a parent of 4 little children. They're getting bigger these days, but I have 4 kids. Like, I learn a lot about leadership,
Right.
right? As a parent, and how to lead a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I learn a lot about like leadership through my clients, because that, my business is small compared to the clients that I
Mm-hmm.
work with,
Mm-hmm.
right? But most of my clients are running really large teams. So we talk about leadership, and I watch and observe them
Mm-hmm.
on kind of what's working, what's not working. And I'd say that those are the places, outside of school and my corporate experience,
Mm-hmm.
from sports, scouting, being a parent, and then
Right.
from my clients running large teams,
Right.
right? And when I talk to those CEOs, like, you know, building a great team is a skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think about, what are the skills you need to be developing as a leader, as a CEO, to build a great team, to hold a team together, to help
Right.
keep developing them. And I think that's what I think leadership a lot, especially as it comes to parent, it's like creating safe space for your children to be who they are and helping them be independent and creative.
Mm-hmm.
And then also helping be clear about what we're doing together as a family. And I think for a business, it's probably very similar.
Most definitely, because I think a business once you bring on a team, that's technically your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in some cases you're with them longer than you with those that are your
For
actual
sure.
family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that family bond.
I would caution against thinking of it as a family,
Mm-hmm.
though, and more think of it, I work with my mentor, and they both help me understand that it's more like, you want to think about it more like you're building like a great sports team,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I think the family, there can be too much caretaking and attachment that
You're right.
happens in a
Great point. You're
family,
great point. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can inadvertently take away people's own authority, right? You don't want to create a
Mm.
culture where people believe that they're dependent on the business for their life,
Right.
because they're not, right? And so
Right.
that way you create a culture like, hey, we're here to move the vision, the mission forward. We're here to create and help
Mm.
people, right? And we have an agreement between the business and the team to
Right.
do certain things. And sure, like, we love each other and we have fun
Mm-hmm.
together, right? And we accomplish together. But I think thinking of it more like as a sports team is a healthier mindset than thinking about
Mm.
it as a family.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I think those are some great points that you're bringing up, because I've seen some clients where they've tried to create that real family atmosphere, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
backfired in their face.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
they were really trying to put something together where they were almost mothering their their
Mm-hmm.
their um their team,
Mm-hmm.
and then they wanted to discipline but couldn't understand how to discipline in a
Mm-hmm.
business setting, because they thought of them as their children. you
Mm-hmm.
know
Yep.
so that's why I said that's a great point, because I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. I think as you mature as an entrepreneur, you start to realize that. I think most small
Mhm.
businesses probably start out as like a family
Right.
vibe. And then as you mature, you start to level up your skill sets and your awareness around what you're actually doing and trying to create.
Right. Right. Man, Christopher, I thank you very much for coming on, man. I mean, and so all these points, that you've been listening to today, again, these are all things that bring up clarity in your business, in your mindset, understanding that, hey, you're going to have to go outside the norm to get to another level. So, Christopher, where people want to find you and talk to you a little bit more about their clarity, which will also build up their confidence, where can they find you and talk to you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is at my website, ChristopherFilipiak.com, and then
Hmm.
also over on LinkedIn. There's a bunch of really powerful articles, like expansive articles about mindset and
Mm-hmm.
sales on my blog.
Mm-hmm.
There's several good ones there to check out that I've written really recently. So
Nice, nice. I thank you very much. Of course, all that information will be in the show notes. So, Christopher, I thank you very much. But I got to ask you the question before I let you go, man. So again, think outside the box, no parameters. The would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I think I'd rather take the fork in the road.
Really?
Yeah, because it just seems more outside to me.
Okay.
And I also think there's a little bit more of there's something more impactful for me about making like a firm decision
Okay.
that like, hey, I'm either going left or right, up or down, than like, hey, I have these 3 doors. It's like too many, not too many options, but I just like the idea about like, look, like, and I also want to go on the journey. Once you go through the door, you're through the door. That's it. Your journey's over. But when you're on that fork, man, you don't know how long you're going to ride that. But
You're
once
right.
you open that door, you know what you're getting.
Right.
Unless there's a fork after the door, then I'll take that option.
Okay. You want all the options.
Yeah, just stack them up.
That's nice. That's nice.
It's interesting. It's an interesting question.
And there's no right or wrong answer, because everyone's going to choose something different. I've had people that say, hey, the doors are glass, right? Some people say that the doors are locked and I can't get through them, so I really want to beat through them like the Incredible Hulk mentality, or when they look at the paths, the road less chosen, or whatever it might be. So I think there are so many different ways you can go with this. So it's just a fun way to end off the show.
Yeah.
And
I think, I just want to share on that. I think what's important to realize in that exercise, at least for me, and maybe there's a gift here for the audience. The important thing is that you're going to desire one of those options. Like it's just going to come through you. You're just going to have a desire for that. Right. And I think the most important thing is to follow your desire, whether it's the doors or the fork in the road,
right,
and trust yourself. And you don't have to justify it either. Right. It's not like, hey, why did you pick that? Well, it's because I wanted to.
Right.
Like, I think that's enough. It's like, that's what showed up, and you go in the direction of your desire. And then the other thing is, from that place of decision, like, you don't know, you have to be open to the possibility of making a mistake with your decision, and understanding that as humans, we learn from making mistakes. So you don't want to get in a place of indecision. You want to make the decision based on your desire at the time, and then go on the journey and have the experience, and then you can make different decisions down the track. So that's what I would say about that, is like, follow your desires and be open to the possibility and okay with making mistakes as you journey through your life and through your growing your business.
So with you saying that, Chris, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree with what you're saying. But the first thing that comes to my mind, I know that I had to deal with, and I'm hearing you, is the feeling of fear and or scared in those moments, right? Because you don't want to make the wrong mistake, So in that, the fact that you don't want to make the wrong mistake, you may not go wholeheartedly in that decision, right? Because you're pulling back a little bit, and so that's why I say I hear what you're saying, but for those of you that are out there that's kind of dealing with that same kind of feeling, I don't know how to tell you necessarily, because that's an internal thing. There's some things we could probably walk you through. I'm pretty sure Christopher has some ideas as well. But there's some things that when I hear that, hey, fear, scared, apprehension, whatever it is, come up, because that's just a human nature anyway.
Yeah. That's why God gave us courage, though, man.
Some of us got to eat spinach to get that, though, Christopher.
Well, you got to do whatever you got to do, Maurice.
But man, that was fun though. Now, but I appreciate that knowledge, that nugget at the end. Though I do. I really appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah,
Cool.
You're so welcome.
Thank you very much. And Christopher, thank you very much for coming on the show. Those of you that have been listening, we appreciate you listening today. Of course, I want to leave you with this one challenge. Write down one area in your life or business where you've been operating from fear instead of focus, and make one bold decision this week to move differently. I thank y'all very much, and we'll talk to you just a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?